Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Randy Mercer with CRE Consultants, and I'd like to welcome you to our webinar fundraiser on a live feed and ultimately on YouTube for our good friend Ray Sandelli, Lee County Commissioner. Ray was appointed by Governor DeSantis about a year ago. I remember it well, and he has done a magnificent job integrating himself into the system that we call Lee County. He's done an absolutely hero's work at figuring out the zigs and the zags of government and how to do the right thing, which he's done all the time. A personal note, Ray and I have been friends since 1998 when he was my boss. Ray ran the state of Florida for C.B. Richard Ellis, one of the largest commercial real estate companies in the world, which as of today is number 128 on the Fortune 500 list. And running the state of Florida has given Ray a very unique look at what goes on in this state outside of our region and how it applies to our region. And there is no county commissioner that has this level of experience as Ray. In his previous life, Ray was a Navy fighter pilot right out of college and flew off of aircraft carriers, which I can't even imagine doing. And ultimately, after that experience, was asked to join the prestigious Blue Angels. He did a lot of that for a lot of years and ultimately hung up his helmet and his flight suit, which we've joked about often. Ray retired from CBRE and put his toes in the sand like everyone else for about 6 months. And he ultimately answered our phone calls after repeated tries and decided to come to Southwest Florida and help us with our business. Ray is a valued partner, and we are so pleased to have Ray as a Lee County Commissioner. And now that he has been appointed and he's had a year under his belt, he is running for election for his seat and his district. I would remind everyone that the county commissioners, although they do have a specific district, represent all citizens of Lee County, and Ray certainly does that very well. Once we have this conversation today, you will understand things that Ray told me for a lot of years. He always told me that it's all about the people, and that's exactly how Ray believed he should run his office and run his life, and he truly represents all the people of Lee County. So we appreciate you joining us today, and we wish you would please tell all of your friends about Ray Sandelli, because the primary is coming up very, very quickly, and we need your help and we need your support to bring this across the finish line. So Ray, thank you very, very much for joining us today.
Well, thanks, Randy. First of all, I want to thank you as a friend and as an associate. I also want to thank all those that are on the call today who've supported my efforts through this past year and look forward to going, ahead together. I often said I think you learn best in times of challenge, and that this certainly has been a challenging year. I have had the opportunity to work through, people don't even talk about Dorian anymore, through that and spent a week in the EOC, into the pandemic, into issues at the airport, and obviously different things that are going on in our community. What I found is that the Lee County team is a great team to work for. And I've been associated with some great teams in my life. I'm very proud to be a part of the Lee County team and to work closely together over the past year. It went very fast, and hard to believe that first year is already under my belt.
To remind everyone who's watching today, you do have the ability to ask Ray some very important questions, whatever's on your mind. At the right side of your screen, you will see a questions toolbar, and please type in your questions, and I will present them to Ray as as part of my duties today, and Ray will be forthright as always and answer them for you. So please don't be bashful. Ask whatever you'd like. I'm kind of weave into this conversation, Ray. This has been, as we talked about, your first full year of the seat. Tell us a little bit about what your key priorities are going forward for the next 4 years, as best you can.
Sure. Well, I come from the private sector, and so I think what I do bring, to the commission is that viewpoint. I've worked in cities, across the country, from Seattle to the Midwest down, certainly back to Florida. So I have a kind of coast to coast look and watch those cities develop. What makes an economy run is certainly jobs. So my clear focus right now, based on where we are as a county, based on where we are as a state, is restoring our economy through retention of jobs, and also creating a business-friendly environment so that we can continue to attract jobs. And that's really a two-pronged approach. If we take care of the clients that we have, and we know this certainly, Randy, from our business, they are our best reference. Why do people want to come here? What are they comfortable with? How can they be a voice for us in doing that? And also the retention of business to help them grow and expand. So that's really key. And I think that my 40 years in the private sector brings me a unique perspective on that, not only from coast to coast, but as I got involved across the state of Florida. I understand the different dynamics that happen within the state. What's interesting about that, as we all know, Florida is a very diverse state. And when I got into the seat here, I had the map put up on the wall, so I looked at all of Lee County. And all of Lee County is pretty diverse. It's a big geography, as you and I both spoke, and it's very diverse in that way. Second thing is, we've got we're going through the budget right now, and as you can expect, as a state and as a county, we're going to have some revenue challenges this year. And so, we're working through that process right now, but our goal is to maintain a low tax burden on people, and also to be very careful with any restrictions that might impede, progress going forward. We're trying to make it as easy and clean and effective as we can. I've been really amazed at how well we can function as a county. The teamwork, again, is really phenomenal. And when you can get back to somebody, even if it's a small problem, very satisfying. My goal also is, as we become a welcoming community, is to make sure we have the right communities to welcome people into. We look at it very carefully. We're looking at new developments that incorporate a variety of different types of housing as we try to bring young people, get them to stay here and attract other young people, to being very sensitive to conservation needs within those. If you look at some of our new communities, they really are amazing to look at. I was out at a project with Army Corps of Engineers, Fish and Wildlife, the Audubon Society, and to look at the way they responded to the way we're delivering new communities. I think we're being very, very responsible to that. And we take a lot of pride in that. And finally, obviously, water is always a concern of all of us, whether it's, the Gulf itself or the tributaries that lead to that. A lot of us are here because of the water. And we saw a couple of years ago how that can change the economy very differently. So those are really my key priorities. Focusing on jobs, focusing on restoring our economy, making sure that we're a clean and friendly place to do business, clean and friendly place for people to live and enjoy life here. It's a pretty spectacular part of the state, and I think we're poised to accept that responsibility.
Well, I agree with you there, Ray, and there's no doubt that water is important to all of us. I'd like to remind the people who are on the video today, you can type in your questions on the panel to the right that says questions. Please feel free to do that. We talked briefly about some of your initiatives and what you're thinking about for the next 4 years. How does that differ from your opponent? Because we do need to draw some sort of a contrast.
Well, I've been on the campaign trail now for a while, and I certainly knew my opponent, prior to that. And I think there's some real differences. I think my opponent is of the mindset of, unfortunately, some who feel I'm here and we don't want anybody else, coming down here. And I don't think that's how you handle growth. I think you have to be a welcoming community. Somebody welcomed us at some point in time. They opened the doors to Florida. We became good citizens. We became part of the fabric of this community. We contribute to that. And obviously, during our efforts, we contribute to the tax base, and that's how we continue to go forward and keep taxes low. The only way to slow growth down, and I think that my opponent and some of his group are, is to make things more expensive. And I don't think that's a way to sustain yourself going forward. We cannot be, and we will not be, simply a community of walled, or state of county of walled communities. It doesn't work that way. We need the energy of young people coming in. We need to accommodate them. We need to retain them. We need to attract others. So we want to be appealing from that way. So I think there's some stark differences. I think, look, we have some commonalities, a few, how we look at things, but I think the differences are very apparent in the conversations that we've had and the different forums we've had.
Ray, where do you think is the greatest opportunity or the greatest potential for growth, economic growth here in Southwest Florida?
Well, I'll tell you, I think from a geographical perspective, I think the Alico corridor is morphing into a key part of our county. Currently right now, between the commitments that we have and the commitments that are forthcoming, we've got about 1,600 jobs keyed up in that corridor itself. That's going to be an incredibly important part for a lot of reasons. One is it consolidates some of our projects, together. The other thing is it makes it very logistically easy, for people to commute that are coming into the job. So if you have people that are living, for instance, up in Lehigh, they don't have to drive an hour and a half, to get down to Collier County for some jobs. And we get some of the connecting pieces into our roadway system. We'll cut that in half. And it's interesting because when people look at moving companies here, certainly, as you know, Randy, one of the first questions is, where's my labor base? And if we can lay that out and show them where the labor base is, it works out very well. So an interesting note, we got a commitment, I think yesterday. We're going to have Alaska Airlines, and this goes back to our airport, which I think is another key component of our economic growth. Alaska Airlines is now going to start flying nonstop from Seattle to RSW. We're also going to have Alaska flying nonstop from LA to RSW. When you start putting, nonstop flights in from coast to coast, that takes our airport, to a different level of flight. And that's going to help serve some of the tenants that we have or the companies we have here. And I certainly feel it'll attract other companies to come to RSW. I saw the airports, the effect that they could have in Seattle, in Cincinnati, certainly in Tampa. And this airport has great potential because of the work that's been done, but also that we have the land around there, where it's located, and that's invaluable. The other piece is, yesterday I met with the group that's putting together, they call the MRO, that's the maintenance and rehabilitation overhaul system, for aircraft. This company is already here. They're looking to expand. They brought a tremendous amount of talent in from the East Coast, or all in the aircraft industry. And we have the ability to construct not only the refurbishment facility itself, but also a school there that will take young people here, train them in some cases on site. We'll be doing servicing for aircraft, not only nationally, but internationally. So it'll be a very unique perspective. So when you combine the Alico corridor, those jobs, you take a look at the airport, you look at some of the things we're putting in place at the airport, we're in a good position, and I think we're poised to capitalize. Now, it's going to take a lot of work to get there, but we've got a great team and we're focused on it. Yesterday was a great day, start to finish.
That's great news. That's fabulous news for Southwest Florida. I personally believe that what we're going through right now could ultimately benefit Southwest Florida as the larger markets realize they can't be as compressed and dense as they are, specifically in their office products. We've seen over the decades regional companies compress into those larger markets. My instinct tells me that there's going to be some room in Southwest Florida for some of those those companies who used to be here to come back. Any thoughts about that?
No, look, I think we all know that people are moving to Florida, and for a variety of different reasons. And certainly one is, the favorable tax treatments that we have here within the state. And so as they look at the larger geography of Florida, they start looking at, okay, where do I want to live? Where can I locate my company? And again, I'll go back to the fact that if we can solidify this labor base, there have more to choose from in that instance. I think the other thing too is people are coming out saying, gee, I'm working in this very dense environment in some northern city. I want to go to Florida, but I don't want to be in that same density. I want to feel like I've got a little bit more room. I want to feel like maybe it's a little bit safer, based on all the issues that are going on today. And I think that what we defined as quality of life before becomes even more important today. But it can't be just a place to go to retire. It's got to be a place that's vibrant, with young people, with jobs, with opportunity. And so I don't want to be too over the top with this, but I'm pretty excited about who we are today and what the potential is going forward.
Yeah, I think most of us are too. It's a question of timing, but I think ultimately we will move ahead of some of the other areas in Southwest Florida.
Randy, as you always saw something, I'll just add one thing. We have people that are living in Southwest Florida now that are working on the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the quality of life here, and it doesn't take that long to get across, but we can bring those opportunities here. It solves a lot of problems for everybody.
Another area that I have been very impressed with is the economic development assistance that Lee County has laid out, not only for businesses, but for its citizens who have experienced some trouble. I've seen deep concern for the citizens of Lee County, and an absolutely fantastic program that the county commissioners approved to put some money back in the pockets of the businesses and the citizens. Would you like to comment on that program?
This fits into this whole process of caring about our people, and go back with what we opened up with. We were very fortunate to get a nice chunk of money from the CARES program. And so when we took a look at that money, we sat down and said, okay, how do we want to do this? And how do we want to face this? And the first phase had to go with, how do we have the impact on our people as quickly as possible? I think, as we know, that the unemployment system and everything was overtaxed. So we looked at a few things. How do we stabilize our citizens? One, how do we make sure that if they've got rent or if they've got a mortgage, that we can help there? That was number one. Number two, as we prepare people to go back to work, if they need childcare, can we make that a part of the equation? And the third thing was, how do we provide the right food supply, to those families? If you think about that, if you got a roof over your head, you got childcare, and you have food, you've now stabilized the family unit, which is so important, to success. Now, by stabilizing that, now you have a better employee ready to go back to work, and that's good for the employee and it's good for the employer. So that part is basically behind us, and we just started at the beginning of this week, phase two. And phase two is now giving money to the employer, so that they can pay to bring people back in. So think about that. Think about that process of stabilizing the workforce, making sure the family unit is as strong as it can possibly be, now helping the employer bring these people back. And as we go forward, opening up the economy is key. I think we're all very clear that you can't pump enough money into the system and have a sustainable and flourishing, economy going forward. So it's taken a lot of work, but it's been very rewarding. And I'll tell you, for those of us, and I know there's a lot on this line that have contributed to the community, when you stand in line and you watch people line up, for the basics, needs that we have, it's very clear where we need to go and what we needed to do.
Well, I congratulate all the county commissioners for their effort here, and just in case anybody doesn't know, you were instrumental in the phasing process, and as it turned out, that was a pretty good piece of wisdom, since we happen to have an elongated process here. So I think that was a good move on everyone's part. So congratulations to the commission, and congratulations to the staff, who has just absolutely rolled out an unbelievable program which works, and is working for the citizens of Lee County, and they did it in record time. It really is unbelievable. It is a model that other government entities should follow. So congratulations on that. We haven't really talked specifically about the elephant in the room, and that's the COVID-19. You know, we're dealing with it locally. The state's dealing with it. Every state is dealing with it. Do you support shutting down the economy again, or mandating masks in public in order to stabilize this? What are your thoughts going forward with COVID?
Sure. Well, look, it's been a very complex problem, you know, or issue internationally, nationally, and certainly, you know, within the state, within the county. I think when you boil it down, Randy, and you drill down to all this, it comes down really to individual responsibility. We can't mandate everything. We can't tell everybody how to live their lives. It doesn't work that way. I think we have to get down to personal responsibility. I do not support collapsing the economy again. I think in retrospect, as we saw what happened when we did it the first time and everybody was reacting instead of anticipating, we could have done it maybe a little bit differently. But certainly there's a segment of our society that needs to be increasingly vigilant. And for that group, you know, they think they should, you know, put a mask on or do whatever they feel is in their best interest. Limit their trips, you know, out to public spaces and so on and so forth. So I think that we're all trying to work our way through this. We're all hoping for that cure that hopefully will come down the line. But I don't believe that the government should be mandating things. And if you think about it practicality-wise, if you were to mandate it, how do you enforce it? You know, and I think that's a critical issue. If you can't enforce it, then what good is the mandate? It's tough to do that. You don't want citizens. I was walking a dog one morning, had somebody tell me, we should mandate this. How do you enforce that? You know, and do you want citizens approaching other citizens, you know, and getting into some kind of altercation? You should be wearing a mask, you shouldn't be wearing a mask, you know? Again, it goes back to the individual responsibility. We have some work to do. I think if you look at, for those who want to, you know, mandate something, trust me, there's an equal voice that says, I don't want to do that. And I think you've seen that in some of our incorporated areas who've taken those votes. It's been very volatile. It's been very back and forth. And I think the decision right now is to encourage people, certainly encourage people to wear a mask, encourage people to be safe. But mandating, I'm not in favor of that. I'm not in favor of shutting down the economy again.
Yeah, I think you're right on track with the majority of the citizens of Lee County. My personal feeling, which really doesn't matter here, is that if you can help protect somebody else as well as yourself, you're doing a very good deed for Southwest Florida. So I would totally agree with you. It is personal responsibility. I'd like to remind anybody, this is your last chance to get some questions in. We look forward to those. I'll talk just for a few minutes, Ray, and then you can close. We do have a solid push in the next couple weeks. The mail-away ballots have dropped. There's a lot of information and fake news out in the community, and there's a lot of good information. And we want to get that good information about Commissioner Sandelli out to Lee County in as many ways as possible. So I would urge everyone who's watching today and everyone who's going to watch soon on YouTube to go to raysandelli.com and take a look at a lot of the things that you've heard here today. And we accept credit cards. Please, if you can give $10, $100, or the maximum $1,000, we'll be very, very glad to put that money to use wisely. And we look forward to some continued support here in the next couple weeks. This race is going to be decided in all probability in the primary election, which is on August 18th. I would encourage everybody to register to vote and encourage everybody to vote, whether it's by mail or whether it's in person. We want you to vote. Please cast your vote, because this is so important. And there's lots of other great candidates out there too that need your support. Ray, would you like to close this out with some final comments?
Sure. First of all, I can't tell you how incredibly thankful I am for this opportunity. And I think this all started, Randy, in your office one day. But it has exceeded my expectations as far as a call to serve again, and to serve the people of Lee County. I've also been associated with some great teams in my life. This team is as good as I've worked with. They have a great sense of purpose. They have a great sense of service to the county, and I'm proud to be that. I couldn't think of anything better than another 4 years, to work with that team. But the clock is running. There's no question about that. We only have about 32 days, 33 days to the primary. And as you said, Randy, the ballots have already dropped. So the process is truly underway right now. We need as much financial support as we can garner right now. And I realize that's always difficult to ask in these times for anybody. But we need to get the message out. We have a very clear plan of what we need to do. We need to execute that plan. So really the time is now. If we're going to get that message out, like I said, the clock is running. And while it may be 33 days, to the primaries or whatever it may be, ballots are out. So we need to communicate every day, and we've been working hard at that. We can never underestimate competition, whether it's in the business side or it's the public sector here. And so, it wouldn't take much, to see this board of county commissioners flip into a situation which is not conducive to economic growth and prosperity. And we certainly don't want that to happen. So we need your support, welcome your support, and most importantly, do need your vote. So I thank everybody for their time today. It's a precious commodity. And if there's any questions now, or if you want to get a hold of me on the follow-up, give you whatever time you need to help make that decision.
Thank you, Ray. And just to let everybody know, Ray has been endorsed by the Lee Building Industry Association, law enforcement, and the sheriff, all of the first responders. They have endorsed Ray, the Lee County Board of Realtors. So it's a broad group of people who are all interested in the future of Lee County and have planted their own flags here. So I would ask that everyone join all the professionals who have endorsed Ray. Let's help him. Let's bring it over the finish line here in the next couple weeks. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. We appreciate it. As Ray said, time is a precious commodity, and we are grateful for your support. We're grateful for your continued support. Please vote. Please tell your friends to vote for Ray Sandelli. Thank you very much today, and we appreciate you, and we'll see you at the victory party.
Thank you to everybody. Stay safe, stay well, and let's make this a win.